Hello, everybody. Welcome to another read along session with me. Today, we're going to start chapter 15, India in the first half of the 17th century. So, political and administrative developments in India. The first half of the 17th century in India was, on the whole, an era of progress and growth. During the period, the Mughal Empire was ruled by two capable rulers, Jahangir and Shah Jahan. The Mughal rulers in southern India too, as we have seen, the states of Bijapur and Golconda were able to provide conditions of internal peace and cultural growth. The Mughal rulers consolidated the administrative system which had developed under Akbar. They maintained the alliance with the Rajputs and tried to further broaden the political base of the empire by allying with the powerful sections such as Afghans and the Marathas. They embellished their capitals with beautiful buildings, many of them in marble, and tried to make the Mughal court the center of the cultural life of the country. The Mughals played a positive role in stabilizing India's relation with neighboring Asian powers such as Iran, Uzbeks, and the Ottoman Turks, thereby opening up greater avenues for India's foreign trade. Trade concessions given to various European trading companies were also aimed at promoting India's foreign trade. Okay, they gave trade concessions to the European companies. But a number of negative features came to surface during this period. The growing prosperity of the ruling classes did not filter down to the peasants and workers. The Mughal ruling class remained oblivious of the growth of science and technology in the West. The fruits or the bitter fruits of it, which we have to reap after centuries also. The problem of succession to the throne created instability, thus posing a threat to the political system as well as to the economic and cultural development. Jahangir, the eldest son of Akbar, succeeded to the throne without any difficulty, his younger brothers having died during the lifetime of Akbar due to excessive drinking. However, shortly after Jahangir's succession, his eldest son, Khusrau, broke out into rebellion. Tussle between father and son for the throne was not unusual in those times. Jahangir himself had rebelled against his father and kept the empire disturbed for some time. However, Khusro's rebellion proved to be short-lived. Jahangir defeated him at a battle near Lahore, and soon afterwards he was captured and imprisoned. We've already seen how Jahangir brought to an end the conflict with Mewar, which had continued for 4 decades, and the struggle in the Deccan with Malik Ambar, who was not prepared to accept the settlement made by Akbar. There was conflict in the east too. Although Akbar had broken the back of the power of Afghans in this region, Afghan chiefs were still powerful in various parts of East Bengal. They had the support of many Hindu rajas of the region, such as the rajas of Jessore, Kamrup in western Assam, Kachar, etc. Towards the end of his reign, Akbar had recalled Raja Man Singh, the governor of Bengal, to the court, and during his absence, recalled Raja Man Singh, the governor of Bengal, to the court, and during his absence, the Afghan chief Osman Khan and others found an opportunity to raise a rebellion. Jahangir sent back Man Singh for some time, but the situation continued to worsen. In 1608, Jahangir posted to Bengal Islam Khan, the grandson of Sheikh Salim Chishti, the famous Sufi saint who was the patron saint of Mughals. Okay, Sheikh Salim Chishti, Sufi saint. Islam Khan handled the situation with great energy and foresight. He won over many of the Zamindars, including the Rajas of Jessore, to his side and fixed his headquarters at Dhaka, which was strategically located to deal with the rebels. He first directed his efforts to the conquest of Sonargaon, which was under the control of Musa Khan and his confederates, who were called the Bahra 12 Bhuyans. After 3 years of campaigning, Sonargaon was captured. Soon afterwards, Musa Khan surrendered and he was sent to the court as a prisoner. The turn of Usman Khan came next and he was defeated in a fierce battle. The battle of the Afghan resistance was now broken and the other rebels soon surrendered. The principalities of Jessore and Kamrup were annexed. Thus, Mughal power was firmly entrenched in East Bengal. To keep the area under full control, the provincial capital was transferred from Rajmahal to Dhaka, which began to develop rapidly. So they transferred the provincial capital from Rajmahal to Dhaka. Like Akbar, Jahangir realized that the conquest could be lasting on the basis not of force but of securing the goodwill of people. He therefore treated the defeated Afghan chiefs and their followers with consideration and sympathy. After some time, many of the princes and zamindars of Bengal detained at the court were released and allowed to return to Bengal. Even Musa Khan was released in his estates and his estates were restored. Thus, after a long spell, peace and prosperity returned to Bengal. To cap the process, the Afghans also now began to be inducted to the Mughal nobility. The leading Afghan noble in the Jahangir was Khan-e-Jahan Lodi, who rendered distinguished services in the Deccan. By 1622, Jahangir brought Malik Amber to heel, patched up the long drawn out tussle with Mewar, and pacified Bengal. So these were Jahangir's military or administrative, I guess, military achievements because he was trying to expand his empire and consolidate the Mughal power. Jahangir was still fairly young, 51, and a long era of peace seemed to be ahead. But the situation was changed rapidly by two developments: the Persian conquest of Kandahar, which was a blow to the Mughal prestige, and the growing failure of Jahangir's health, which unleashed the latent struggle for succession among the princes and jockeying for power for the nobles. These developments pitchforked Nur Jahan into the political arena. The story of Nur Jahan's life, her first marriage with Iranian Sher Afghan, and his death in a clash with the Mughal governor of Bengal. Nur Jahan's stay in Agra relation with an elderly relation of Jahangir, and her marriage with Jahangir 4 years later are too well known to be repeated in detail here. Sober historians do not believe that Jahangir was responsible for the death of her first husband. Jahangir's chance meeting with her in the Meena Bazaar and marrying her was not so unusual. Her family was a respectable one, and her father, Iti Madhudola, had been made joint Diwan by Jahangir in the first year of his reign. After a brief eclipse due to the involvement of one of his sons with Khusraw's rebellion, he had been restored to his position. Having been tested in this office and following Nur Jahan's marriage with Jahangir, he was raised to the office of Chief Diwan. Other members of the family also benefited from this alliance, their mansabs being augmented. Iti Madhudola proved to be able, competent, and loyal, and wielded considerable influence in the affairs of the state till his death 10 years later. Nur Jahan's brother, Ashraf Khan, was also a learned and able man. He was appointed the Khan-e-Saman, a post reserved for nobles in whom the emperor had full confidence. A year later, he married his daughter to Khurram Shah Jahan, who was his father's favorite following the rebellion and imprisonment of Khusraw. Some modern historians are of the opinion that along with her father and brother, and in alliance with Khurram, Nur Jahan formed a group of Janta, which managed Jahangir so that without its backing and support, no one could advance in his career. Okay. Some modern historians are of the opinion that along with her father and brother, and in alliance with Khurram, Nur Jahan formed a group of Janta, which managed Jahangir so that without its backing and support, no one could advance in his career, and that this led to the division of the court into two factions: the Nur Jahan Janta and its opponents. I guess Noor Jahan was the kingmaker at that time. It further argued that Noor Jahan's political ambitions ultimately resulted in a breach between her and Shah Jahan, and this drove Shah Jahan into rebellion against his father in 1622. Since he felt that Jahangir was completely under Noor Jahan's influence. However, some other historians do not agree with this view. They point out that till 1622, when Jahangir's health broke down, all the important political decisions were taken by Jahangir himself, and is clear from his autobiography. The precise political role of Noor Jahan during the period is not clear. She dominated the royal household and set new fashions based on Persian traditions. On account of her position, Persian art and culture acquired great prestige at the court. Noor Jahan was the constant companion of Jahangir and even joined him in his hunting expeditions since she was a good rider and a sure shot. As such, she could influence Jahangir, and many people approached her to intercede with the king on their behalf. But Jahangir was not dependent on the Janta or on Noor Jahan, as is also borne out of the fact that nobles who were not favorites of the Janta continued to get their normal promotions. The rise of Shah Jahan was due to his personal qualities and achievements rather than the backing of Noor Jahan. Own ambitions. Shah Jahan had his own ambitions of which Jahangir was not unaware. In any case, in those times, no ruler could afford to allow a noble or prince to become too powerful lest he challenge his authority. This was the basic reason for the conflict between Jahangir and Shah Jahan. Shah Jahan's rebellion. As long as Khusro was alive, he was a potential rival to Shah Jahan. But in 1621, Shah Jahan killed Khusro, who had been kept in his custody, and spread the news that he had died due to colic. A little earlier, feeling that Shah Jahan was becoming too powerful, efforts had been made to put forward his younger brother Shahryar. Shahryar was married to Noor Jahan's daughter from her former husband and given an important command. It was these complicated maneuvers which led to Shah Jahan's rebellion. The immediate cause of the rebellion was Shah Jahan's refusal to proceed to Kandahar, which had been besieged by the Persians. Shah Jahan was afraid that the campaign would be a long and difficult one and that intrigues would be hatched against him during his absence from the court. Hence, he put forward a number of demands such as full command of the army, which included the veterans of the Deccan, complete sway over the Punjab, control over a number of important forts, etc. Jahangir was enraged by his attitude. Convinced that the prince was meditating rebellion, he wrote harsh letters and took punitive steps, which only made the situation worse and resulted in an open breach. So Noor Jahan was an Iranian. Okay, there was a lot of family dynamics going on, and Shah Jahan eventually broke out a rebellion because he also had his political ambitions and obviously wanted to get enthroned. So the immediate cause was his refusal to proceed to Kandahar because he thought that in his absence there might have been some maneuvers to degrade his position in the court, and that would hamper his chances of becoming the next ruler or becoming the successor of Jahangir. So he gave many stringent or many what would Jahangir term as senseless uh, demands, which were according to Jahangir, and Jahangir they was enraged because of it, and this resulted in a much worsening of the situation and an open breach. From Mandu, where he was stationed, Shah Jahan made a sudden dash on Agra in order to capture the treasures lodged there. Shah Jahan had the full backing of the Deccan army and all the nobles posted there. Gujarat and Malwa had declared for him, and he had the support of his father-in-law Asaf Khan. Asaf Khan was Noor Jahan's brother. See over here, Asaf Khan is Noor Jahan's brother. So Noor Jahan was married to Jahangir. Noor Jahan's brother is Asaf Khan, whose daughter is married to Shah Jahan, and Noor Jahan's daughter from the first marriage. was married to Shah Jahan's younger brother Shahryar. This, and because of which he was given some uh, like a good position in the Mughal Empire, and all of this dynamics was so chaotic that it brought Shah Jahan into rebellion. And Shah Jahan has already killed his elder brother Khusro, which he said that he died due to colic. So this is a lot. There is a lot going on. However, the Mughal commander at Agra was vigilant and foiled Shah Jahan, who then moved on to Delhi. However, by this time Shah Jahan had assembled a large army under the command of Mahabad Khan. In the battle that followed, Shah Jahan was worsted and saved from a complete defeat by the valiant stand of the Mewar contingent. Mahabad Khan was then ordered to move on to Mandu. Prince Parvez, being appointed the nominal commander of the army, another army was sent to wrest Gujarat from Shah Jahan. Shah Jahan was hounded out of the Mughal territories and compelled to take shelter with his erstwhile enemies, the Deccani rulers. He was ousted out, was hounded out of the Mughal territories, and he took shelter within the Deccan rulers. However, he crossed the Deccan into Orissa, took the governor by surprise, and soon Bihar and Bengal were under his control. Mahabad Khan was again pressed into service. He was asked to leave the Deccan and proceed to the east where Allahabad was being threatened by Shah Jahan. He took energetic steps and hence Shah Jahan had to retreat to the Deccan again. This time he made an alliance with Malik Ambar, who was once again at war with the Mughals. Shah Jahan was assigned the task of capturing Burhanpur from the Mughals, but Shah Jahan failed in the enterprise. He wrote abject letters to Jahangir, who felt that it was time to pardon and conciliate his ablest and most energetic son. Okay, pardon and reconciliate. As a part of this agreement, two of the Shah Jahan's sons, Dara and Aurangzeb, were sent to the court as hostage, hostage, I guess, and a tract in the Deccan was assigned for Shah Jahan's expenses. This was in 1626. Mahabad Khan. Shah Jahan's rebellion kept the empire distracted for 4 years, resulted in the loss of Kandahar, and emboldened the Deccanese to recover all the territory surrendered to the Mughals during Akbar's time and in subsequent campaigns. It all pointed to a basic weakness of the system. A successful prince tended to become a rival focus of power, particularly when it was felt that the monarch was not able or willing to wield the supreme power himself. Shah Jahan's constant charge was that following Jahangir's falling health, all effective power had slipped into the hands of Noor Jahan Begum to become the center of focus, I guess, to become the center of power. A charge which is difficult to accept since Shah Jahan's father-in-law Asif Khan was the imperial diwan, and though in poor health, Jahangir was still mentally alert and no decisions could be taken without his concurrence. Jahangir's illness created the further danger that an ambitious noble might try to use the situation to gather supreme power in his hands. An unexpected episode brought this to the force. Mahabad Khan, who had played a leading role in dealing with the Shah Jahan's rebellion, had been feeling disgruntled because certain elements at the court were eager to clip his wings following the end of the prince's rebellion. It was felt that his alliance with Prince Parvez might be dangerous. Summoned to the court to render accounts, Mahabad Khan came with a trusted body of Rajputs and seized the emperor at an appropriate moment where the royal camp was crossing the river Jhelum on its way to Kabul. Okay, he actually seized the emperor. What? Summoned to the court to render accounts, Mahabad Khan came with a trusted body of Rajputs and seized the emperor at appropriate moment when the royal camp was crossing the river Jhelum on its way to Kabul. Noor Jahan, who had not been apprehended, escaped through the river, but an assault made in conjunction with Asaf Khan failed ignominiously. Noor Jahan now tried other ways. She surrendered herself to Muhammad Khan in order to be close to Jahangir and tried to lull the suspicions of Muhammad Khan while secretly trying her best to undermine his position. Within 6 months, taking advantage of the mistakes committed by Muhammad Khan, who was a soldier but not a diplomat or an administrator, and due to the growing unpopularity of his Rajput soldiers, Noor Jahan was able to wean away most of the nobles from Muhammad Khan's side. Realizing his precarious position, Muhammad Khan abandoned Jahangir and fled from the court. Sometime later, he joined Shah Jahan, who was biding his time. The defeat of Muhammad Khan was the greatest victory attained by Noor Jahan, and it was due in no small measure to her cool courage and sagacity. However, Noor Jahan's triumph was short-lived, for in less than a year's time, Jahangir betrayed at last, not far from Lahore. The wily and shrewd Asaf Khan, who had been appointed Wakil by Jahangir and who had been carefully preparing the ground for the succession of his son-in-law Shah Jahan, supported by the Diwan, the chief nobles, and the army, he made Noor Jahan a virtual prisoner and sent an urgent summons to Shah Jahan in the Deccan. Okay, Noor Jahan was actually his sister then too. Meanwhile, he put a son of Khusro on the vacant throne as a puppet. Shah Jahan's younger brother, Parvez, had already died due to excessive drinking. His second brother, Shahryar, made a feeble effort for the throne, but he was easily defeated and thrown into prison after having been blinded. Oh my God. Soon afterwards, Shah Jahan reached Agra and was enthroned amidst great rejoicing. Soon after, Shah Jahan reached Agra and was enthroned amidst great rejoicing. Earlier, at his instance, all his rivals, including his imprisoned brother, cousins, etc., were done to death. The president and the earlier president of a son rebelling against his father, which was begun by Jahangir and was followed by Shah Jahan, was to lead growing bitter consequences for the Mughal dynasty. Shah Jahan himself was to reap his bitter fruits he had sown. As for Noor Jahan, after attaining the throne, Shah Jahan fixed a settlement upon her. She lived a retired life till her death 18 years later. Shah Jahan's reign was full of many-sided activity. We had already studied his Deccan policy. We shall now turn to the foreign policy of Mughals, which reached a high water mark under Shah Jahan. Foreign policy of the Mughals. We've seen how, following the breakup of Timurid Empire in the second half of the 15th century, three powerful empires, the Uzbek, Safavid, and the Ottoman, established themselves in the Transoxania, Central Asia, Iran, and Turkey. The Uzbeks were the natural enemies of the Mughals, having been responsible for the expulsion of Babur and the other Timurid princes from Samarkand and the adjoining areas, including Khorasan. At the same time, Uzbeks clashed with the rising power of Safavids, who claimed Khorasan. The Khorasan plateau linked in Iran Khorasanian plateau linked Iran with Central Asia, and the trade routes to China and India passed across it. It was natural for the Safavids and the Mughals to naturally lie against the Uzbek danger, especially as there were no frontier disputes between them, with the exception of Kandahar. The Uzbeks tried to exploit the sectarian differences with the Safavid rulers of Iran, who had ruthlessly persecuted the Sunnis. Both the Uzbek and the Mughal rulers were Sunnis, but the Mughals were too broad-minded to be swayed by sectarian differences. Annoyed at the alliance of Mughals with a Shia power, Iran, the uh, Uzbeks occasionally stirred up the fanatic Afghan and Baluchi tribesmen living in the northwest frontier tracts between Peshawar and Kabul. Perhaps the most powerful empire in the West Asia at the time was that of Ottoman Turks. The Ottoman or the Osmanli Turks, so called after the name of the first ruler Osman, had overrun Asia Minor and Eastern Europe, and also conquered Syria and Egypt and Arabia in 1529. They had received the title Sultan of Rum from the shadowy caliph living at Cairo. Later, they also assumed the title of Pashta-e-Islam. The rise of a Shiite power in Iran made the Ottoman sultans conscious of the danger to their eastern flank that it would encourage Shiism in their own territories. In 1512, the Turkish Sultan defeated the Shah of Iran in a famous battle. They clashed with Iran for the control of Baghdad and also for the areas in North Iran around Eriwan. They gradually extended their control on the coastal areas around Arabia and made a bid to oust the Portuguese from the Persian Gulf and the Indian waters. The Ottoman threat from the west made the Persians keen to befriend the Mughals, particularly when they had to face an aggressive Uzbek power in the east. The Mughals refused to be drawn into tripartite Ottoman Mughal Uzbek alliance against the Persians, as it would have upset the Asian balance of power and left them alone to face the might of the Uzbek alliance with Iran, left them alone to face the might of the Uzbeks. Alliance with Iran was also helpful in promoting trade with Central Asia. If the Mughals had a stronger navy, they might perhaps have sought a closer alliance with Turkey, which was also a naval power and was engaged in a struggle against the navies of the European powers in the Mediterranean. Akbar actually had a fleet of boats, but there is no mention of the navy, as it was the Mughals were carry of a closer relationship, as it was the Mughals were carry of the closer relationship with Turkey, since they were not prepared to countenance the claim to superiority made by the Turkish Sultan as successor of the Caliph. These were some of the factors which shaped the foreign policy of the Mughals. Basically, the Ottoman Empire from or the Turks claim that their ruler is the Caliph or the descendant of uh, their spiritual emperor, I guess, Akbar and the Uzbeks. In 1511, following the defeat of the Uzbeks, chief Shaybani Khan by the Safavids, Babur had briefly regained Samarkand. Although Babur had to leave the city after the Uzbeks had inflicted a sharp defeat on the Persians, the help extended to him by the Persian monarch established a tradition of friendship between the Mughals and the Safavids. Later, Humayun too received help from the Safavid monarch Shah Tahmasp when he had sought refuge at his court after being ousted from India by Sher Shah. The territorial power of the Uzbeks grew rapidly in the 70s under Abdullah Khan Uzbek. In 1572 to 73, Abdullah Khan Uzbek seized Balkh, which which along with Badakhshan had served a kind of buffer between the Mughals and the Uzbeks. In 1577, Abdullah Khan sent an embassy to Akbar proposing to partition Iran. After the death of Shah Tahmasp, Iran was passing through a phase of anarchy and disorder. Abdullah Uzbek urged that Akbar should lead an expedition from India to Iran in order that they may, with united effort, release Iraq, Khorasan, and Fars from the innovators Shias. Akbar was not moved by this appeal to sectarian narrowness. A strong Iran was essential to keep the restless Uzbeks in their place. At the same time, Akbar had no desire to get embroiled with the Uzbeks unless they directly threatened Kabul or the Indian possessions. This was the key to Akbar's foreign policy. Abdullah Uzbek also approached the Ottoman Sultan and proposed a tripartite alliance of Sunni power against Iran. As if in reply to this, Akbar sent a return embassy to Abdullah Uzbek in which it was pointed out that differences in law and religion could not be regarded as sufficient ground for conquest. Regarding difficulties faced by pilgrims to Mecca, he pointed out that with the conquest of Gujarat, a new route has been opened. He emphasized the old friendship with Iran and admonished Abdullah Khan Uzbek for making insulting references to the Safavids and said they were Sayyids and sovereigns. Akbar's growing interest in Central Asian affairs was reflected in his giving refuge at his court to the Timurid prince Mirza Suleiman, who had been ousted from Badakhshan by his grandson. Abul Fazl says that the Khyber Pass was made fit for wheel traffic and that due to fear of the Mughals, the gates of Balkh were usually kept open. In order to forestall an invasion of Badakhshan, Abdullah Uzbek fomented trouble among the tribesmen of the northwest frontier through his agent Jalal, who was a religious fanatic. The situation became so serious that Akbar had to move to Attock. It was during his operations that Akbar lost one of his best friends, Raja Birbal. In 1585, Abdullah Uzbek suddenly conquered Badakhshan. Both Mirza Suleiman and his grandson sought refuge at Akbar's court and were given suitable mansabs. Meanwhile, with the death of his half-brother Mirza Hakim, Akbar annexed Kabul to his dominions. Thus, the Mughal and the Uzbek frontier ran side by side. Abdullah Khan Uzbek now sent another embassy which Akbar received while he was at Attock on the river Indus. Akbar's continued presence so near the frontier had made Abdullah Uzbek uneasy by the real motive of Abdullah Uzbek's embassy, it appeared, was to obtain Akbar's neutrality in his projected campaign in Khorasan against the Safavids. He therefore revived the earlier proposal for a joint campaign against the Safavid power and for opening the way for pilgrims to Mecca. Meanwhile, taking advantage of the situation, the Ottoman sultans had invaded northern Iran, while the Ottoman sultans had invaded northern Iran, while the Uzbeks were threatening Herat in Khorasan. Akbar sent a long letter in reply to Abdullah Uzbek's proposal. He disapproved the Turkish action and proposed to dispatch an army to Iran under one of the royal princes to help. This was a thinly veiled threat to intervention this was a thinly veiled threat of intervention to Abdullah Uzbek, although he was asked to cooperate in the work and hope was expressed to their meeting in Iran. However, Akbar made no serious preparations to back up his threat of a campaign in Iran. Also, Abdullah Uzbek had invaded Khorasan even before Akbar's letter reached him and captured most of the areas he claimed. In this situation, it appeared best to Akbar to come to terms with the Uzbek chief. Hence, one of his agents, Hakim Human, was sent to Abdullah Khan Uzbek with a letter and a verbal message. It seems that an agreement was made defining the Hindu Kush as the boundary between the two. It implied that the Mughals giving up their interest in Badakhshan and Balkh, which had been ruled by Timurid princes till 1585, but it also implied the Uzbeks not claiming Kabul and Kandahar. Uh, though neither party gave up its claims completely, The agreement gave the Mughals a defensible frontier on the Hindu Kush. Akbar completed his objective of establishing a scientific defensible frontier by acquiring Kandahar in 1595. In addition to this, from 1586, Akbar stayed at Lahore in order to watch the situation. He left for Agra only after the death of Abdullah Khan Uzbek in 1598. After the death of Abdullah, the Uzbeks broke up into warring conspiracies and ceased to be a threat to the Mughals for a considerable time. That was a lot to process, guys, and I guess that's it for today. I'll see you guys in the next video. Till then, bye.